Hello, traders. This is my daily recap. Some big things are happening in the markets. If you look at the main indices, they didn't really go anywhere today, but under the hood, some serious changes are happening in the markets. The first and major one that happened this morning was right as the European Open hit, we got a sustained bid in the bond markets. And what we basically have done now, we've crossed over the 125 SMA and we gapped up above today's market maker move zone and had a sustained bid and held in there above the 125. So now we've turned to the bullish side on our bond markets. Okay. Now I wasn't in a big hurry to rush to the long side because what we've got right here is the monthly volume point of control right here. And as you can tell in the past, this can act as a responsive chop zone. Okay. That's why I was not gung ho going into Intel's earnings tonight, taking a substantial long position in the bond markets. But basically, what we do see though is every time we cross above this area, we do run up to the 122 area every time religiously. And look at this: 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. 6 times that it's done that. So, yeah, we're definitely heading to 122, and it may start tomorrow and may wait till the first of the week. But I do think we are set up for a cycle downturn in the markets into next week. I don't know how deep it's going to be, but there is going to be selling pressure either likely starting tomorrow, but it may hold off and start first of the week. And I do plan on early on tomorrow morning initiating some swing longs into the end of next week, or swing shorts, I mean, into the end of next week. Okay, the second confirmation I'm looking for a sell-off in the markets, that's our high yield bonds. And that's the gauge of fear in the markets. And that's what led the markets for a major correction last time. We may or may not get this confirmation because I do think this is just going to be a short-term sell-off, and the markets will decide what to do after that. But the big sell-off back in October was caused by a liquidity issue in the high-yield bonds. And so far, we're not seeing any type of issue in that regard. And we're holding above our MAs pretty solid here. So this is my second confirmation that I would want to add to my shorts. I'm hoping this confirms tomorrow morning with some selling pressure from the overseas markets and possibly Europe in the morning. So we'll see what happens. We could just plateau or be flat Friday or tomorrow. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think what we're going to see is liquidity issues into Friday afternoon, like a typical Friday, because these markets are all screaming a topping pattern. And when we go into the weekend events, going into the 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's typically on a Friday we start seeing a liquidity issue either to the upside or the downside. And that's the scenario that I'm thinking we are setting up for here. A major correlation that I'm keeping on my radar that I want to alert you to. If we are going to have a major correction in the markets, we want to see our financials, which their charts really extremely look toppy here. You want your financials to underperform the SPY. Like if the SPY selling off, you want the financials to lead the way to the downside. And basically, what you're wanting to see when you have the XLF SPY correlation, you want to have a red candle, okay? And ideally, you really want a red candle, a red body candle, and that tells you that the XLF is underperforming the SPY on any given day. Okay, what has happened each on these candlesticks? That's not nearly as important as what each candle is saying on these correlations. Okay, and that's going to tell us tomorrow what's going to. And that's another thing I'm looking for. That, I think, is a more likely scenario for tomorrow. Okay. Another major theme which is hitting the markets. That's your Dixie here. And it looks like we're coming in so far in the after hours session here. But the Dixie closed right at the 200 day. I think that's the 200. Let me double. Oh, the 50 day. The 50-day moving average. It rocketed up to the 50-day moving average, uh, giving us a sign that we could be having a significant trend change, bullish trend change in the dollar after Draghi's comments of additional stimulus in the Eurozone. Okay. And this is a significant change of character that we haven't seen in a very long time. So just keep this on your radar. So far this morning, it looks like that scenario, it's coming off a little bit in the early hours sessions. On the flip side here, we have a substantial monthly trend. Well, this goes back all the way to October of 2017. It's a 2-year trend line. Right here, right now, the Euro US dollar, we are breaking trend and a critical SMA on top of it. So just keep this in mind that we are seeing some significant weakness in the Eurozone, the currency. And this could have a substantial impact on the global markets. I copied this chart. This chart was made by a person on Twitter, and it was released at the 1st of January. And as you can see, our cycle patterns right here, we are heading right here. We are the 24th. So we are right here on the cycle analysis, potential cycle pattern. So I am seeing the next 3-4 days some significant downside pressure based on cycle analysis in the markets. So far, we're just kind of hanging out here at a topping area. But given the Intel results, which were absolutely horrible and which are most likely to be sold off all day long tomorrow, this is a very strong scenario that we are going to get at least a short-term sell-off in the markets. I'll shoot. Okay. Now, my last currency pair that I do want to mention here, that's the Aussie dollar, US dollar. And this is the risk, this is your risk signal for China. Okay. And basically, this indicates to us how many people are thinking that China is a risk on commodity right now. So basically, China has been pretty well holding up the indices and everything, but it's a lot of people Bank of China is coming in and buying up a lot of equities. This here is giving us a cleaner read of what's going on in China or global sentiment towards it, and we are actually breaking down this correlation. So just keep that in mind that a lot of risk here that China is actually going to start seeing some further lows here in the not so distant future. My thesis for this week has been for the markets to hold this expected move low coming in for this week, and as of tomorrow, I think we are going to break down below this and close below the expected low. We got this 9 SMA it's 8 SMA, I think, coming right through here. We're going to break that first thing in the morning, in my opinion, and it's going to come crashing down, in my opinion. And basically, this is a long-term support line on a yearly basis. So I do think we're going to be coming down to the 259 area, and we'll go from there. I mean, it could get really bad tomorrow. Like I said, we're in a cycle, at a point in the cycle where there's a lot of risk to the downside, and not many traders are going to want to step up and defend these markets, in my opinion. And if you go over to your ES, your S&P futures, now, of course, My lines aren't getting drawn in. Give me a second here. Okay, there we go. Basically, then if we start breaking down below the 2626 area, which I'm almost positive we're going to be testing it tomorrow. We have the market maker expected move to be 2606, so that'd be a 2600 retest for tomorrow. So that looks like a definite possibility that's going to happen. And our next 1575 would be our next support area if we do get a strong sell signal in the markets tomorrow. And it is quite possible. I honestly do think that is quite possible. But the 2600 area is definitely on my mind a rational thought of market action tomorrow and continuation, and we're going to probably test the 1575 first of next week. After Intel's results, which were absolutely horrible, and like I said, I really think they're going to sell it off for most of the day tomorrow. We have this inverted head and shoulders. The markets really thought it was going to bust out, fly out of this situation. And I do not think that's the case. I think it's going to reject this breakout pattern. And we're going to be coming down to at least the 9280 area, in my opinion, on our semiconductors. So I've got a list together of some semis that I plan on shorting tomorrow. I do not think this is a one-off sell-off in the overnight session on Texas Instruments. It was pretty bad. And same way with Western Digital. I mean, it was gapping up in the after-hour session, but those earnings were not very pretty. So we'll see what happens on my bearish take in the markets. Well, the dollar was catching a real nice bid earlier. I was calling out continue some crude weakness, but that seems like that's resolving to the upside now. We'll see how the morning sets up here. But if we do continue to get dollar strength, then we're going to start seeing some weakness in the crude oil space. And do keep in mind we had a build on our crude inventories this week, and so I'm kind of thinking that we're going to be coming down to the $62 area and retesting this uptrend line on our crude oil instead of pushing out to higher highs. All depending on how the dollar, because dollars tends to work inverse with crude. But it's actually quite surprising to see crude catching a bid like that after those oil inventories. So, something I want to point out. And basically, I have internals here that I use on these markets. And anybody who wants this grid, all you have to do is send me your Twitter handle, put it down the bottom of the YouTube video, and then I'll send you this this grid for you for Thinkorswim. And basically, as soon as the market opens, I see if the the UVol, DVol is above or below the zero line, and it's the same way with the ascending and descending issues. Make sure it's above or below the ascending line, and that decides how I'm going to position myself throughout the course of the day. And even though I'm putting a bearish slant on my call out on this video, I could be all my positions tomorrow could be bullish. So I just want to point that out. My opinion will change depending on how the markets and the sentiment come into the markets tomorrow. Right now, considering how big Intel is, how big of a powerhouse it is, and knowing that it should continue to sell off throughout the course of the day, well, boy, these talk about one heck of a bid in the NQs here right now. That is amazing. And given the earnings results, it's unbelievable to see bids like this in the after hour sessions. Okay, so we'll see what happens tomorrow and go from there. Good trading, and I'll see you tomorrow.